Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Mohammad Zarar from BS Chemistry. Today my presentation topic is oil-based paint. First of all, layout. In this topic we will see its definition, some oil paints, tools for preparation of oil paints and how to prepare oil paint, its uses and its side effects. Now we start our discussion with the oil paints. When we see the word oil paints means the paints which contain oil are called oil paints, and the oil which are used in this system is linseed oil. We mix linseed oil with pigment and prepare oil paint. The viscosity or density of oil paint means how to prepare oil paints dense. We use white spirit, and the glossiness means the grace of oil paint can increased by oil paint film, means the oil paint film will grace more properly by using white spirit or turpentine oil. So these are oil based paint. And the next is some, we see here some oil paints. First is artist oil paint. Artist oil paints made from pigment, solvent and binder, means pigment mixed with solvent and the binder. Binder is the thing that bind two things together. Generally in this oil paint we use finest, means powdered linseed oil, and artist oil paint are no chemical additive, means they are not be harmful, and they prevent painting from yellowing. Some colors, some paints we see in our environment become yellow after the passage of time, like artist oil paint are those which prevent painting from yellowing. They are long lasting and longer drying time, means they paste on the wall for long time. And water soluble oil paints means the oil paints which are soluble in water are oil paint. These are not very efficient because they are not very pure. Some water is present in them. They are thin and easily cleaned with soap and water. These paints avoid chemical additive and hazardous fumes, means they prevent the environment from hazardous, means harmful fumes which are not be very effective for us. These are traditional paints and they are drying time is longer, means they dry after a long time. Artists use to improve texture and control in paintings. This is the use of water soluble oil paints that artists use for improved texture and control in paintings. Now we read some tools for oil paints. The tools that are necessary for preparation of oil paints. First is right paint selection is very important, means the paint which we want to prepare is right, means it is pure, it will not be a impure, it will be in pure condition. The second is best use stiff hog bristle brush for oil paint, means for mixing the oil paint we use a hard brush. Third is palette is not non-flat porous plate, means the palette is not non-flat porous. And why it is non-flat? Because if it will flat and porous, the color will draw out from the surface. The other is palette knife is used for mixing the color. And the last is turpentine is liquid used thin oil paint. And the next is preparation of oil paint, how we prepare the oil paint. Here the one thing is very important, and that is every pigment and every color has its own structure and specific formula. So though we mix the pigment and the color which have the same structure and the same formula, other pigment and oil that have different characteristics, they will not mix together. Here there are some steps to prepare the oil paint. The first step says that in the beginning we used a small amount of pigment and mix a oil with small amount of pigment and make a crater in the heap or center of pigment. Means when mixing is begin to start, we make a crater to mix oil with pigment so that the pigment will not come out from the surface and mix together properly. In the second step, no added oil in the pigment. First we take the pigment and then we add the small amount of oil slowly on the pigment. One approach is very benefit, and that is small amount of oil will break up the overall pigment particle. Why we use small amount of pigment? The answer is that if we take large amount of oil, then pigment, then oil will disperse from the surface and the paste and the color will become thin. In the third step, we will mix oil and pigment with the help of spatula. First, in first two steps, we only take pigment and oil, but in the third step, we mix together by spatula and by applying a specific pressure. The amount of oil added should be normal or correct measured, because correct amount of oil added in pigment will result stiff paste. In the beginning, paste is very important because stiff paste give us an idea that how much paint is required to maintain the amount of pigment and the oil. And in the fourth step, now we move the muller with in circular direction to mix up the pigment and oil properly. The more contact with surface of plate and flat bottom, smoother will be the paint. And the muller is that in the muller we closed the pigment and oil that is present on non-flat palette at specific amount, and we move in a circular form to mix it properly. First of all, the paste will form will be hard, but if we require the large amount of paint, it depend on our requirement, then we add oil and the pigment. In the five step, know that the whole process will be done in fixed plate. If some paste is spread out, then collect it and again dissolve with pigment with the help of muller. In the sixth step, at last, if we take oil is larger or pigment, then adjust them according to requirements and grind with muller. After the preparation of oil, if we see that some quantity of oil or pigment is greater than other, we balance them by adding oil or pigment. So in the final step, when the paste has consistency desired, it is ready to use or store. Which when we repeat all steps in one or two lines, I say that first of all we take pigment in non flat plate, then we add some amount of oil in the pigment, then we mix together, and with the help of muller we mixed in the form they that in the specific space they mix together properly. And how mix we mix muller will move in a circular form, then they will mix together. And if the some, and if some amount of pigment or oil spread out from the desired surface which collect together and again mixed. First of all, the color will prepared hot, but after the passage of time, if we require the more amount of oil, we take some amount of oil and pigment to increase the quantity. Use of oil paints. Where we use oil paints, artists use them for painting because its slow drying properties. Domestic paints, in our houses, in our buildings, we use oil paints. And the third use is that they are resistant to UV rays, and UV rays is are harmful for our skin and our environment. So, by applying oil paints, we save from UV rays. Here, some oil paints have side effects. First, thinners such as turpentine and white spirit are flammable, means they can ignite by the flame. Both turpentine and mineral spirits can harmful to health if we use it in excess amount. And the second is these paints produce organic compounds VOC, which are also harmful. So these are the oil based paint. Thank you.